All right, so we were talking about the four, all the way, Michael, the four cursors for divorce, which 92% of the couples that would have them would divorce. Even though it's number 3, but we're coming to the number 1 predictor of divorce. Michael, go around the block. The number 1 predictor of divorce, that is disrespect, disregard, and contentment. To disregard or disrespect your spouse has many faces to it, many facets to it. For example, being cynical, being sarcastic. For example, when a person says, "Oh I heard about your need to go out of the house and have a career. Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah, I hate sarcasm. Sarcasm or being cynical is a measure of cowardness. I just cannot take people who are sarcastic. No passive aggressive as well. I just don't have patience for that whatsoever. Sarcasm. Oh yeah, we heard about you, right? Rolling your eyes, right? People go there. Yeah, I don't know how to roll your eyes. You roll your eyes. People roll their eyes like, make all kind of faces, right? You know how it is, yeah. Rolling your eyes, twisting your mouth. This kind of like, you feel like taking somebody just give him a karate chop. Terrible. I mean, it's like a fuse. The other person can explode. Giving cheap shots. Oh yeah? You're such a holy man. Oh, you're telling everybody how much you work on yourself. But you, look at you now. Look at how you dirty your mouth. Right? Cheap shot. When you do those things, you're giving an indication here, I want to fight. I want to fight. And I want to fight at all costs. I don't care. So the other person will say, hey, you want to fight? All right, so we got ourselves a fight. Right? Negative humor. When you are funny, but in a very nasty way. Okay? Very bad. Testing the limits. Oh, really? Oh, really? And what are you going to do to me if I do that? Okay? You hear it all the time. Okay, so you catch me talking to another man, or you catch me talking to another woman. Oh, what exactly are you going to be doing, okay? Oh, let's hear. What are you going to be doing? You hear this all the time. Like all of a sudden you're like this sarcastic big shot, Mr. Cool himself, or herself. Contentment comes from a place of feeling also alienating the other person. You're above that person, right? I'm better than you. I can make fun of you. I'm the master, you're the servant. I'm the master, you're the slave. So I can talk to you like this. Because you're not going to talk to your boss like that. You're not going to talk to your friends like that. You're going to talk to somebody who's below you. You're feeling above them. That's the number 1 destroyer of families. And that is so common in today's society. From stand-up comedies to talk shows, I think those Jimmy Fallon, Mandy, all these things, where they late nights, whatever you call this shows. Everything is about looking down, and everything. What bothers me, that everything done in the name of liberalism and equality to all, which I would decide, of course, who is all, But you look down at everybody. There's no class anymore in the way people talk. And that sense of alienating and feeling superior to all, believe it or not, actually comes from very weak people that need to put, not for speed, they need to put everybody down in order for yourself feel high. That's a very bad thing. If you have this need, it means that you are a very weak and insecure person, as aggressive as you want, because the best defense is offense. So I'm feeling so miserable about myself. I feel like an absolute nothing, and I know I am a nothing, so I'm going to push you down. At least I'll be over you. That's the number one destroyer of families, a home wrecker. Sarcasm is devastating. There's no room for sarcasm. And that's something that you should be very, very, I mean, again, today, those cheap shots, and everybody likes to throw these like cheap shots, and like, they don't want to get into the dirt, so they throw something and they run away, like a drop and release, What are we talking about? Bombs here, bombs away. Usually when you do drop and release, you're talking about bombs, about destroying. That's when you have a war, and it's the same thing you're doing. You drop and release, and I'm not doing it, Everybody's a comedian. Everybody's playing a game. It's terrible. So what is there to do? Instead of doing that, because, by the way, you're doing so, you are leading yourself into a highway to divorce. Maybe we should make an AC/DC song about that. But that was your stomach? Whose stomach was that? It's my stomach. It's my stomach. Right, so what does that for do? So for example, you could try to focus on qualities that your spouse has that you respect, that you appreciate. To speak with your spouse with respect. It's very recommended to think about the time when you just started to go out. And I always tell this to couples. What happened to the time that you really, unless you had a shotgun wedding, one of those weddings, a fixed wedding and so on. But what happened to the times that you really loved each other and you got married? Remember your wedding night or the wedding day or whatever time you really loved each other and the sparkle in your eyes and so on and so forth. Or what just with you dating each other, you couldn't wait to speak to the other person. What happened to this time? Apparently you had it. Yes, with your great negligence, you dropped it. You didn't maintain it. You didn't maintain this this thing. But what happened to it? Where has it gone? You had it. Can you still go into the closet or into the attic or into the basement, whatever you put that thing, and look for it and kind of dust it up a little bit and put it back into work? What happened to that component in your life? I mean, after all, if you didn't have it, you wouldn't be here. What exactly happened to it? That's why it's very important to, when you date somebody, to date appropriately. And don't date for money or looks or, so on and so forth. Date for the right reasons. So you have to remember that, that during this time you really admire each other and you saw something in that person. So therefore ask yourself, what was it, truthfully, what was it in that person that really overwhelmed me, that really took me by a storm just at the beginning of this relationship, when I saw, I said, wow, this is the right one. What was about it? What this person, my spouse, my husband or my wife, what was it in him or her that was different than anybody else? What did I see in that person? So that is trying to find the good. Sometimes you might say, you know what, I don't know what I was thinking. And you're right. Many times you don't know what you're doing. You're marrying for any reason but the right reason. And I keep telling you guys, you're going to pay the price. When you do so, you would pay the price. And the price is too greater for you to pay. You don't have so much in your quote-unquote bank account to pay that. So make sure you marry for the right reasons. And if somebody tells you something, you look into it. Because you're going to, and there's nothing for free. There's no free rides. You're going to pay for this. You would pay for it. So if you come to the point, listen, I don't know what I was thinking. Before you divorce, says, excuse me, what would I be doing to fix it so it won't happen to me again? And you shouldn't blame anybody else, right? But yourself. And that's not, because nobody told you to get married. You told yourself. Now, when you have criticism and this kind of behavior of defense and disrespect or contentment and disregard will come to effect, many times in a communication between couples, the feeling, the negative feeling, or the level of negative feeling in that relationship would escalate. You don't have good feelings in a communication, in a relationship anymore. It's all negative. So there is a certain level of negativity, and it's just like escalating. It goes up like a bad blood pressure, out of control. Imagine you get up in the morning and your blood pressure is like, 200 over 140. What will happen to you?
I had a guy last night, he had that.
Really?
His systolic was like 145. His diastolic was 145.
Wow.
The second number. He was a dialysis patient. They have crazy blood pressure.
What happened if you start your day like this with 145 in the morning? Starting your day, not the okay. At the end of the day, who knows what happened? At the end, the beginning of the day. It's like, I don't know if you're going to make it to the end of the day. I don't know if you're going to make it to sunset. I don't know if you're going to make it to sunset. And that's exactly what happens here. When it's so bad, and there's such stress in the relationship because of criticism, because of sarcasm, because of disregard and disrespect and lack of appreciation, you are not going to make it to the sunset. You're not. Finished. Yeah, you get a couple stroke. You're dead. The relationship dies. That's it. It dies. And then, listen, many people have relationship comas. They don't have any intimacy anymore, and they don't see the need for that, and they would tell you it's like middle age or whatever that will be, and it's anything but the truth. It's just their relationship died. And many times because of financial or who knows what, who would say what would say, they don't divorce. But it's all dead. They sleep. I know of a couple that for 30 years slept in different bedrooms. They just didn't want to divorce because they didn't want to go through the financial hassle, and especially they lived in a small place that, he would say what will say and so on and so forth. 30 years they lived in separate rooms, and then in the end, there was only one person left because the other one died. You don't want to come to that. But you will. So when that comes, then you start fortifying yourself in. When there's a lot of negative around you, you start to do self-fortification, and that brings you to the next and last indicator of divorce. Okay? As I said to you, what we spoke about now, just this one, number 3, is the number 1 indicator for divorce. So, who was that? Michael? Okay. All right, so the last one will be fortification and emotional flooding or bordering detachment. That's the last one. Fortification is a situation when one of the partners in the relationship, usually will be the husband, not always, usually will be the husband, would disconnect emotionally from this conversation. There's different, as much as you say men, women, blah, 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 they think different. Men and women think and operate different. So men usually will become emotionally detached from the conversation, and is not a partner in this conversation on any level, whether it's expression or body language or even of course verbal, but not even with body language. Okay, He might not even keep an eye contact with a person anymore. He just sit there like this, Archie Bunker kind of a thing. It's just she's yelling, she's raving, he's just sitting like this, gazing into the horizon, thinking about Geronimo. I don't know what he's thinking about. It's just like it's almost like a baby. When a baby gets overwhelmed, right? When a newborn overwhelms, they gaze. They kind of shut down anything, any kind of stimulation that comes to the brain, and that's a natural mechanism to protect the brain from high RPM in your head, from overheating up. So kind of baby gazing, all of a sudden you go to the baby and he goes like this, gaze, you go like this, the baby doesn't see a thing. Many times it happens to men like that. The reason that usually it happens, again, it usually will happen with a husband, but something will happen with the wife as well, is because they feel a complete overflowing, like a flood, that usually also will come to increase of your pulse to about 100 beats per second. So they're feeling overwhelmed physically. Their hearts start to race and they start to disconnect. So therefore, what brings to that, forget about the blood pressure, right? What will bring to this kind of a flood usually will be the presence of, as we said earlier, because 3 and 4 are really connected, of criticism and defending yourself from criticism, and also defending yourself from disregard and disrespect. When somebody looks at you like ass, so you feel like this feeling you're nothing. Always reminds me of the Pink Floyd, the movie, even though I don't like the Pink Floyd anymore, especially with Roger Waters, because he's an anti-Semitic person, and I'm not going to listen to a music of somebody who doesn't like me just for who I am, so forget about that. So, but, when you have this guy who takes all his anger on the students, when he comes home, his wife is kind of beating him up to eat if you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding, right? You know this one? If you can't have your meat, you can't have any pudding. You don't remember from the wall? We don't need no education.
Oh,
yeah, at the end, right? So there were certain teachers who would hit the children with anything they could, right? Because the wife were abusive, right? So the person like this disconnects and so on and so forth. So it becomes defensive, right? If it becomes defensive, that kind of a disconnect helps them to protect themselves. And that fortification usually symbolizes, or is quite typical to men more than women, basically because men and women have different types of mechanism to relax themselves. As much as a baby sometimes will put himself to sleep or will gaze and so on and so forth, men and women are different in relaxing themselves, in self-relaxation, in order to make sure you don't blow a fuse. Otherwise, and people who don't know how to blow a fuse die. All of a sudden, the blood pressure rises up, the heart goes up. Right, doctor, what happens?